I truly believe with all this shit around here, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So I'm
So today we have Carol on as a guest, and she's going to share with us her story into her faith, and we're going to have a great discussion off of
I
this.
wanted to start with two childhood stories, and I hadn't thought about these things in years. Joyce telling me about this made me think of him, but I think they're good to use because it illustrates this is really early stuff, guys. This is not after I got indoctrinated for decades. This is me as a little kid and how I received what I was being shown in the faith world. So I'm a little 5-year old. I have dark brown hair in your eyes now as a little 5-year old, long hair. And the family moved next door with a 5-year old girl named Jan. And she and I grew up like sisters. I mean, we fought like cats and dogs, and they couldn't separate us. We loved each other dearly. So I have a sister. God gave her to me. He just put her in the house next door and gave her different parents. But she was my sister and at age 5, and I get that. And her mother and father called me the adopted one. So, how this aligns with the faith story, well, besides the fact that I believe God sent me a sister at age 5, how this aligns with the faith story is her parents went to the Presbyterian church just in the neighborhood, and they took me to church with them, with Jan. So, I grew up, even though I'm from the deep South, okay? So, this is a very Southern faith history. So, I've got serious hard shell Baptist on mother's side of the family and pretty laid back, soft spoken Lutheran turned Methodist on the other side of the family. So here I am at a Presbyterian church because of the neighbors. So the South is just Southern Protestant kingdom, okay? There's just Southern Protestants of all kinds all over the place. So I'm at a Presbyterian church and I'm in Sunday school and they're teaching us. We sang this song, which I know people will think is silly and sentimental, but the song was, I'm not going to sing it for you. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, be they yellow, black, or white. They are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. And I don't remember anything scary happening in Sunday school. Sunday school was all love and light and Jesus loves little children. So, and that really landed with me. And one of the reasons I say this is because you never know when you're dealing with a child where this child comes from and what this child is dealing with. So I had um, a mother who took very good care of me and did love me. It wasn't a loving household because nobody was touchy feely but me, and that made me feel not very loved. But I was loved. Let's be clear, they loved me. And my father was actually mentally ill. He didn't get hospitalized till I was 14, but there's a long road there, and he was clearly mentally ill. So he was not a bad person. He was an ill person, and my household was scary a lot of the times and slightly terrifying part of the time. So I'm showing up with a clean face and brushed hair and an ironed cotton dress and little white anklet socks and black patent leather shoe, Mary Jane's. So nobody would guess there's anything this child is struggling with or odd about this child's background. So nobody would have any way of knowing that telling a child like this that Jesus loves little children, nobody would get that you might be changing that child's life. Because that was good news to me. Because there was one person I could believe in who I absolutely knew loved little children. Now that's in a 5-year-old's mind, right? So, but clearly I believe this Jesus person was real and he loved little children, so he had to be a good guy. So I'm rolling along in the Presbyterian church, and Sunday school is sweetness and light and fun. Okay, this is a special little note. We sang hymns out of the Southern Baptist hymnal, which are the old fashioned old standards. Now, downstairs in church, we sang out the Presbyterian hymnal, and nobody knew those songs. And it was a very cold, dry experience downstairs. But upstairs in Sunday school, it warmed my little ENFP heart because Jesus loved the little children, and that's what was important. So roll forward 6.5 years, and I'm 11 going on 12. And I'm in catechism. I don't know if they call it catechism, but when you're 11 going on 12, you get put in class, and then you make a decision because at the age of 12, you get to make a decision and you get to become a member of a Christian. So I, I'm in catechism class, and the preacher is very different from the Sunday school teachers. They are all sweetness and light, and I had a lovely time upstairs. He was a real health hellfire and brimstone kind of guy. And it was like sinners in the hand of an angry God. Dave, do you remember reading that in English class in high school? The Cotton Mather's "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God," famous, one of the most famous sermons around. It's really horrible. It's a horrible picture. I'm getting hot just talking about this. It's a horrible painting, not painting. It's a sermon, but the picture he paints is of an angry Old Testament God. Who'd strike somebody by lightning just because they did one thing wrong. I mean, it was. So I went from sweetness and light Sunday school to an angry Old Testament God in catechism class. So then one day, the crucifixion story got very badly explained to me, guys, by a very well meaning person. Okay, so let's just be clear about that, a well meaning person. And it was explained as so humans had been very, very bad. And God was so upset with us. But he's a big guy. So only one person has to suffer and be tortured and killed horribly. And then everybody else is off the hook because that's the kind of guy God is. He's a big guy with a big heart, and all the rest of us getting off the heart. But, somebody has to pay. Somebody has to pay. So somebody has to die horribly and bleed. Well, my 11-year-old self is not happy with this. My little introverted feeling is just going like a Geiger counter at this point because I'm not having anything to do with this angry, bloodthirsty God. So I go home that night and I'm saying my little prayers when I go to bed. My parents weren't particularly religious, so I was doing my little prayers by myself. And so I'm having a conversation with God and I'm explaining to him why I don't believe in him anymore. Because he's really mean and he's angry and he insisted someone suffer. But Jesus is good because I'm still remembering Jesus loves the little children. So Jesus is good and I still believe in Jesus, but I don't believe in you anymore, I said to God, because you're bloodthirsty and mean. Now, let's get past the 11-year-old logic that it's possible that Jesus is real if God isn't real. Okay, let's just realize that my 11-year-old mind was not dealing at that theological depth. I was just really having an FI explosion about God being represented to me as a bloodthirsty person. So, about night number 3 that I'm having this conversation with God, I stop mid sentence. I just stop. And the voice inside my head says, Carol, you talk to God every night to explain to him that you don't believe in him. Obviously, you believe in him. And then the voice stopped. And I thought, I just can't logically figure this out, but I am failing miserably as an atheist. I just have got to give up trying to be an atheist because clearly I can't hack it. I obviously believe in God because I'm telling him I don't believe in him. I'm an atheist. So I gave up atheism that night and I just admitted I was a theist. And it took years later before I had some, a little bit better teaching experience. I actually majored in religion and modern culture and comparative religion at an Episcopal university. So I got some better teaching later on, and I realized that I didn't have to believe in the angry Old Testament God. That there was a more positive, powerful, loving force, and it was just clear to me as a child that this was all real. And all the extended family members were churchgoers. We weren't, and we didn't talk about religion or faith or anything like that. That wasn't discussed. It was really clear to me that the Baptists thought the rest of us were going to hell. But other than that, we didn't. They didn't say that to our faces, but it was really clear from how they talked of judge. There was real judgment about there were people going to hell, and thank goodness I did not have to deal with that. So that was my childhood experience was Jesus loves the little children and telling God I didn't believe in him. That kind of wraps up my childhood memories of religion.
Yeah, I find that people's experience of religion really mirrors culture. So sometimes when a culture is more stabilizer, what it can result in is these stories that have threats in them. It's like
Mm.
I noticed that sometimes you'll even see this in German childhood stories where they'll believe like they'll tell children if you don't obey, bad things will happen to you. So it's like this believing that people are inherently bad and we need to discipline you to become good people, and that's completely against the Catalyst NF
Darn
core.
Right.
Yeah. I could see that conflict, and then eventually you found out that there's a way to interpret religion in a way where like there's a way to interpret your faith where you don't have to include that mean old man, and he has a kind heart too.
I think a lot of people's stories are is they don't really believe, and then later in life they kind of come to it and everything like that. It's like, or they find something lacking, they go out into the world and they find it unsatisfying, and then they come back to God. But you just like, even in your anger, you couldn't really fully, like you said, if you're failing as an atheist. So it was just like, um yeah, I mean, it was like some type of anchor was just like planted in you. I mean, it's like, I've heard your stories. Even now you didn't have like you know, sunshine and puppies growing up and everything, but you still like kind of like clung to that. I mean, what do you think were the factors that made it possible for you to like hold on to that? Because there's a lot of people who, someone's just like a prick to them in church and then they just walk away. They have one bad experience and they just kind of wash their hands of it. But you've had your, more than your fair share of bad experiences, yet you still have like a faith.
Yeah, Dave, I really think this is the appropriate form for this because I think it's a typological story. I really think my catalyst core, I'm not saying all catalysts, but my catalyst core, I believe, is where this comes from. My introverted feeling is, for all that have ENFP preferences and I'm lively and outgoing, that introverted feeling has to be fed. And I spend a lot of time alone, and heaven knows, I studied comparative religion because I was taught in college that this is not about teaching you to believe something. This is about understanding. This is how mankind has tried to figure out what its relationship to the world, to the universe is, and where meaning is, and where it's how it's connected. So that I think again, that was my catalyst core. I didn't go to college to be a religion major. I went to college to be an English major. I was going to be an English teacher. That never occurred to me. But I got lit up by this class. It started with Paul Tillich's dynamics. By the way, this course was required. It's an Episcopal university. The only required course in the whole school was Religion 111. And you start with
Mm.
Paul Tillich and dynamics of faith. And I thought, wow, I have never been presented religion in this light before. I just taken the course because I had to. I had no intention of being a religion major. And then I had been in the marching band. This is connected. I had been in the marching band in high school. And so I was surrounded by the marching band, and we were all geeks. The demigods were the football players and the cheerleaders, but we were geeks. But it didn't matter because we had each other. I mean, it was a wonderful, warm family experience. Then I got to college, and I also realized, oh my God, I don't have the band. What am I going to do without the band? And then my college roommate and her boyfriend said, hey, we're going to choir practice and join the choir. You want to come with us? And I thought, well, I don't have a marching band. I guess I can make do with the choir. So I went with them and I joined the choir in an Episcopal university. So beautiful chapel, and oh my God, the music was fabulous. We sang in French and German and Latin, and the organ was there, and the sermons. Oh my God, the sermons were so enlightened, and nobody was threatening you were going to burn in heaven, and it was uplifting, and it's like, oh my God, I had no idea religion could be this way. I thought I was just going to go on through the rest of my life not attached to a church, in my own little private, quiet faith inside here, that the other side is real. I can't explain how, but I really get it at a deep core level, and I think it's related to type, that the other side, there's just a thin veil and it's real. And that brought me into the Episcopal Church. Now, I think a typically I think I have a very atypical kind of story that goes forward. We'll go over that because it was a journey for me. I didn't wasn't in the Christian church all those years, Dave. I was in Swanee, but I couldn't find an Episcopal church to go to when I moved after college. So I didn't go to church for a while, and then anyway, well, I will stop there for is there any more, but because that's going on with the story of my journey, my faith journey. Dave, did that I really think it's my catalyst core. What, read it back, and introverted feeling, and ENFP, and just the catalyst, essential motivator, as Linda Behrens calls it. I just really think I'm a catalyst, and I've got the wiring to be feel like that's real in a way that I
Mhm.
think people who have different wiring would have to see a whole lot of different kind of proof to believe there's anything they can't see, touch, experience with personally immediately is real. It's just and I knew better than to talk about it, Dave, because other people weren't talking about it. I had
Mhm.
enough. I'm not, my Effie's nowhere near like Joyce's, but I had enough. Southern culture is very Fe, so I had
Mhm.
enough developed Fe to know. Okay, I can't talk about that because these people think I'm weird if I talk about that, and if I'm weird, I can't belong. So
Yeah.
the last thing I wanted to do was be perceived of as weird or different or believe strange things, or God forbid that I might be a little crazy because I believed what I did. So boy, that I kept that FI stuff to myself. I could be
Yeah.
expressed it at college in the choir and that, but I was most of my life. It's been a journey for me through different groups.
That's a really interesting answer because I could see how that FI, it doesn't want to believe or like look at that world, and then I could see with like NE's like the internal kind of optimist, so you kind of have these two kind of like
Yeah.
dueling forces that kind of like combine to kind of give you this strong resiliency. Like there's a quote from Aldous Huxley where he said it basically went like, in the midst of winter I found that I had an invincible summer
Yeah.
inside of me, you know, type of um type of thing. Um yeah, and also the challenges of having to keep those like FI values and thoughts and things and more serious stuff, deeper stuff to yourself and everything.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Because think about it, Dave, that's too
yeah,
tender and core to let it
yeah.
be put out there and get butchered in front of my eyes. Thank you for bringing that up. I
Yeah.
definitely was that's too tender. I was not gonna bring that out.
Yeah, it's like pulling out your heart and putting it on a platter and telling
Yeah.
people, "Hey, here's my heart. You can destroy it if
Here,
you want
beat
Yeah.
this up. Have fun, beat this up.
to." Yeah,
Yeah.
and I find that ENFPs really do feel the presence of God at an early age, without really
Yeah,
knowing what to call it if they don't grow up in faith. It's
right.
just something warm that always follows them around, or something warm that's always there with them, and they know it's there, and it makes them feel safe and protected, and like and so it's almost like ENFPs are very in tune with the vibes of what's happening, or what, like,
Yeah, yeah,
and so they can almost feel God on an experiential level way sooner than a lot of people. It's like almost um, a fourth sense for this
yeah.
warmth that is around you. That if you tell people, there's that fear of seeming woo woo because it's like, oh, other people don't experience this.
Right.
Um,
And other people weren't talking that way. It was very clear that what was going
Mhm.
inside me was not being talked about out here. And the sense of belonging, ENFPs, we get in a lot of trouble in our life by what we're willing to give up of ourselves in order to belong. And remember, I wanted to belong. So keeping some things private, Dave, were the way I could keep this belonging thing happening. And after college, there were I didn't I didn't find an Episcopal church to go to, so I was away from the Episcopal church for 30 years.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because I stopped believing a certain way; it's that I couldn't find one to attend where I could feel like I resonated, and I went on a journey. I'll still pause here in case somebody wants to say something, but and I think there may be something catalyst about the fact that I had a journey through faith. And I think my NE, you mentioned my NE dominant before, Dave. I think my NE dominant has a lot to do with what I was willing to and drawn to explore in college. And as I got older, my NE light, my excuse me, my catalyst core could draw to me people who were more like me once I got out in the world. And then I could start having spiritual experiences with groups because, what we put out a vibration, right? We vibrate
Mhm.
a certain way and we draw to us people we need on our journey, whether it's for arduous lesson or to be loving people on our journey. And so I started discovering different spiritual groups that I had different experiences of down through the years. But I think that was my catalyst core, like singing the song, right? Vibrationally and getting me with those people. that I'm
Yeah.
not happy with.
Yeah, I find with ENFPs, they have to go through a few churches to actually find the one that really is the one because a lot of there are a lot of places in which ENFPs are looking like introverted feeling is like a tuning fork, and you're looking for
Yeah,
the church
yeah.
that resonates, and you can feel when it doesn't resonate. It just yeah, there's a value clash, or they don't treat people well, and you can tell when people are being
Oh,
mistreated
yeah.
because that's one of your values.
It's been just a really challenging experience because on one hand, you've got your heart turned toward Christ in your inner world where you're totally accepted as you are. Because I mean, the truth is the fact that you're an ENFP. I mean, that's not abnormal. That's totally natural. Those are God-given gifts you have. They're just not the typical gifts. So in a weird way, in your inner world, you're accepted. But even in a religious realm where you think, wow, this is like kind of like Disneyland for NFs. Like, it's the spiritual religious realm where we would really like thrive. But even there, you had to contain yourself.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going to speculate that because everyone was probably so sensible and they didn't want to hear, especially when things I think come out through NI or NE and FI, it can be very sentimental. You can have like beautiful language, and it's not how people normally talk or the way they view things. So, I mean, it must have been a challenging experience to feel like accepted, yet you're in an environment where you think your NE and FI would be accepted, but then it's kind of not. And then finally later in life, you can kind of just fully bloom and just like let it all hang out and everything. So
And well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Well said, Dave. And later, so about the what environment I would accept. I was in environments I didn't gosh, where I found my way into a Course in Miracles group. I didn't find a church early in my 20s, so I was, not church then. But then I somehow, through a friend of a friend's, how people, the vibration goes, no, I remember how it went. I met a guy in an acupuncturist workshop one weekend, not teaching us acupuncture, teaching us Taoist meditation stuff. And then I was in the train station in Raleigh because I was going to Connecticut to see. I have 5 Episcopal goddaughters. Okay, so Aunt Carol was going. Fun Aunt Carol, right? Fun ENFP Aunt Carol was going to visit godchildren, and I'm sitting across this guy in the train station in classic ENFP move. He looks up in the paper, and I said, "I just can't get over the thought that I've seen you somewhere before. We've been in something together." And he said, "Oh yeah, you were in Jean's Taoism workshop." And I said, "Yeah." So we sat together on the train and we rode north, and that's all I'll tell of that tale. But he told me about, "I want to share something with you," he said, and he shared the Course in Miracles. So he told me, the phone number and who to call. And so later, after I got back from my trip, I met him at a Course in Miracles. So for 3 years on Sunday night, for 2 hours, I was in a Course in Miracles meeting, which is a really kind of woo woo, you know, up here, very conceptual. I won't go into more. People can look up A Course in Miracles, but the leader of it died, and most of the people who went to the Course in Miracles actually went to Unity Church. And Unity is, what does it call itself? Positive practical Christianity. And Unity is very woo woo. I mean, I'm convinced it's almost all NFs. They're inhabiting the Unity Church. It's very woo woo. And I was there for 3 years. I ended up being director of the Sunday school. And I realized I couldn't be a Sunday school director in a church where I had to tell kids they were going to hell. But Unity didn't talk about hell at all. So I could be a Sunday school teacher with little children because it's positive, practical Christianity, and I didn't have to scare them or say anything negative to them. And then, for reasons I won't go into, I made my way over to the Religious Science Church. They had a very charismatic, wonderful speaker. And that again is that is actually a blending of multiple traditions with Christianity, which would horrify some people. And I was there for 7 years, and we won't go into why I left there. But I was unchurched for 10 years, and a friend of mine had gotten unhappy with her church experience. And so she just read spiritual stuff and just continued studying on her own. And that gave me the courage, because I'd stayed at that last church longer than I should have. And that gave me the courage to let go of an overt spiritual community and be on my own. And I think the first year I read Anne Lamott. In the second year, I read Pema Chodron. So I could talk. Mary Ann and I would meet to talk, and I could be my unvarnished spiritual ENFP self with her because she and I had met at Unity Church. And I spent 10 years that way of just reading. I read Jack Cornfield, wonderful Buddhist writer, very beautifully Christian loving stuff coming out of a Buddhist guy, right? And then I was walking one night, the universe takes you where you're supposed to go. And there was a sweet guy walked through my neighborhood with a dog. And we fell into step because I'm a walker. He's a dog walker. And we stop at my house and he says, Carol, it's Friday. He said, Carol, I was walking after work with him. And he said, do you have plans tonight? And I just said, no. I mean, it wasn't a come on way, you know? And I said, no. He said, well, my wife, Becky, has a migraine. And we agreed to volunteer at the fundraising concert at St. Philip's Episcopal Church tonight. And I was just wondering if you'd work the snack table with me. Well, I'm an ENFP. You don't tell a husband whose wife has a migraine, no, handle your own snack table, bucko. You don't do that. I said, well, sure. When you want to pick me up? And he said, I'll pick you up at 6:30. So that was my first experience of this wonderful church. So then they took me one Sunday, and the minister is going off on sabbatical. So a retired priest is talking. ENFJ, beautiful, beautiful ENFJ man. I mean, just the essence of this warm, loving ENFJ priest. And he quotes Eudora Flannery O'Connor. He quotes Flannery O'Connor, who I studied extensively in religion and modern culture, right? So, this is a sign. The first place, they're quoting Flannery O'Connor in a freaking church, and who's Catholic, by the way. And the second place, the substitute guy is a great speaker. There must be great speakers here. So I can't figure out how to ask them, are you one of those close-minded Episcopal churches that doesn't let gay people come? Or are you one of those open-minded Episcopal churches that believes all of us are loved by God? But you just can't say that, right? I mean, how do you go up to somebody and ask them that? So I went home, the next best thing, Google. I went home and I went to their website and it said, we are an open community of reconciliation. And we have gay and lesbian couples raising children in our church. We performed the first gay marriage Saturday after the law was passed. We had gay men, we had lesbian women raising children. We have we have I'm an LGBTQ ally, and we're a black and white congregation, and brown. Come to think of it, we have a fairly large Liberian population who are in our church. They probably grew up in an Anglican church in Liberia, and we were the closest thing they could find when they got to North Carolina. But I can see, Dave, I can be there because I had to know it wasn't a church that said God didn't love gay people, because I couldn't handle that. My FI couldn't handle that. So I got to find it out on the website. So I joined, and I've been there, gosh, going on 15 years now. And believe it or not, I'm now head usher. If that's not hysterical, I'm head usher. But I turned it into a greeting ministry. So I'm at the door and I'm making people feel welcome, because that's what ENFPs want, is everybody feel like they belong and they're welcome when they get there. And I was still holding back a piece of my private self, because, in open church, you just don't go off on your ENFP mystical stuff, right? Because I'm a mystic. I've had visions. I'm only saying this to you because you two, well, other people out there may now think I'm crazy, but you two know me and don't think I'm crazy. And you don't go around talking about mystical experiences because, you don't want people thinking you're a freak. And I remember when I sang in the Duke Choir, actually when I was, before the Course in Miracles, I was singing in the Duke Chapel Choir, which is a Methodist church. And I remember very vividly, wonderful man, loved his sermons for 6 years. But I remember one day very clearly, he said, you know what the problem is with mysticism? It begins in mist and ends in schism. And I thought, well, there's somebody telling me I've got no permission to be who I really am here. So I kept my mystical mouth shut those 6 years. But then I ended up in A Course in Miracles and Unity and Religious Science, and you could be mystical there. And then I ended up in Episcopal Church. I'm still not out as a mystic in church, but this amazing thing happened. The universe gets you on your path. From last November till this this past July, every Tuesday morning, I was helping a blind elderly lady get to church to answer the phones. We won't go into that anymore, but that was clear to me. That was Tuesday mornings are free. She needed to get there. She's a lovely person. I did it. And then all of a sudden, she now can't get out anymore. So I'm free for one Tuesday. And a woman comes up to me and says, Carol, would you meet me for lunch? I want to talk to you about a course called um, ministry, ministry for priesthood. I forget, that's not quite the name of it, but it's you're learning the biblical and church history and uh, uh, theological stuff that priests do. You just don't get a degree. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this sounds like right about because I didn't really study Christianity at Swanee. You want to hear my logic? I got 18 years old, right? I got brought up a Christian. I know all about Christianity. I'm studying Buddhism and Hinduism and the ancient Babylonians and Assyrians and Egyptians because that's really freaking cool. I don't need the Christianity stuff. Well, you know what? God has shown me. He says, I'm fixing your little red wagon, Carol. I'm getting you into a 4-year program every Tuesday morning for 4 years. September to May, I'm now in the class where I'm going to read the whole freaking Bible, which I've never done before in my entire life. But in this group of like 8 or 9 people, people are willing to talk about mystical experiences and
Mhm.
they are willing to talk about their inner life and they are willing to talk about their faith struggles. So now, Dave, it's funny you mentioned this. This just happened like 4 weeks ago. Now I've been shown, even inside this bigger place, that I got to be a big part of myself, but not all of myself. Now I've been shown, and guess what? Here's this small group right here and you get to show up as your no holds barred, unvarnished, full blown ENFP mystical self, and nobody will think you're crazy. So I now, Dave, at the age of 68, have the full enchilada. So it's been a journey. I mean, think about me going through all those things. I was picking, I think that was my NE hardcore at work, Dave. I went through all those different religious groups and I was picking up the pieces my soul needed. And then when I got, it's like, okay, I've got what I need here. I'm going on somewhere else. And I'm not sorry I did any of those things. I got stuff from all of those things. But I think my path to somebody who's conservatively Christian would look kind of heretical. But I think there was like my catalyst core, and I think my NE was going out there and open and gathering and taking what I needed. Take what you need, leave the rest. Taking what I needed, leave the rest. So this is a catalyst journey that starts in. It's obvious the other side's real. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to tell. I had an experience in Shakespeare class with Dr. Pascal. And he was saying, well, this passage here is obviously about the human condition, fear of death. And I realized everybody kind of acted like that's true. And I thought, I'm not afraid of death. And I have no idea why I'm not. But I now know I'm weird because they all take it as everybody knows everybody's afraid of death. So once again,
Mhm.
Dave, I'm keeping my ENFP mouth shut because
Yep.
obviously I've been told everybody's afraid of death. It is clear to me death's not the problem. Having a long, lingering, suffering death, that's on my problem list. Let me tell you that. But passing over to the other side, that is walking through a doorway into, I
Mhm.
I don't believe we're human beings. I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We are in the earth school and we get to go back and be just spiritual beings having grown our souls in this earth school. And oh my God, that's so heretical Christian, not good talk going on here. But I wonder if catalysts have more out of the box, uh, put together systems of belief and can't be encapsulated all by one. So I'll shut up.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that your journey also mirrors Richard Rohr's in some way. He identifies as an ENFJ and he's an Enneagram 1. And he actually, the way that he practices, practices Christian faith is he actually has his own way of understanding it too. And so at times, like people, like especially stabilizers, may see it as heretical. But then it's also like if you have a relationship with God and you have visions of godly experiences. I feel like it's just you talking about your relationship with God, and it,
Thank you. Thank you. I
yeah.
love it. Did you hear that TI reframe she just did, Dave? That introverted thinking reframe? She just reframed me out of being a heretic. I love it.
What I'm hearing, Carol, is that as an ENFP, there's noticing the signs of God being there. Like, um, I had an ENFP ex best friend, and she's Christian, and she would see signs in like the clouds or like in certain places that God was there. And like if she were to tell people that, yeah, I feel like God's showing Himself in these signs, it may not be
Oh,
accepted because that's not usually how God is experienced. But I think for an ENFP, the experience is very personal, and it's also very poetic how they experience God.
yeah, yeah, and it's not, I mean, I realize how ridiculous that would sound to some people that, God got me in that class, but I feel a, a sense of this, I think, and this is I think, Dave, my introverted intuition is waking up more because there is a sense of just knowing something. I mean, FI knows what where the lines are and how people should talk, based on your values, how people should treat each other. That's real clear. But NI knows that something is the right thing. And when she came up to me and told me about that class, I said, if you'd come up a week before, I'd have had to say no because my Tuesdays are devoted to Betsy, and I'm not dropping Betsy. Betsy's 78 and blind. I'm not dropping Betsy. So, but there's just a knowing, that sense of God's involved in it. And I don't mean in a personal way, like God stop and say, oh, wait, God, do something for Carol Linda now. I'll be right back. I don't think it's like that. But I do think we are in connection with something greater than us. And it really is trying to help us be here and have our spiritual experience and be spiritually fed. So it's a knowingness that, wow, this really is the right thing I'm supposed to do in this class. Now, my funny part about it is I I got out of Christianity classes in college through my 18-year-old logic of I grew up a Christian, I don't need this stuff. Well, that's pretty ridiculous. Thank you. Thank you. That's real. I'm here all week. Thank you. Thank you. So I get 68 and all of a sudden, first of all, I think it's just a year. Then I'm told it's 3 years. Then I find out I'm in a 4 freaking year commitment. Gonna read, and I'm doing all the stuff pre-study, but I won't, have a degree. I'll have a certificate of some kind. But it's like this is God going nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Carol, you thought you got out of that boring Christian stuff in college. Well, guess what? If I got a surprise for you, I got a 4 year commitment and I am just sliding you right in it. So a friend of mine used to say that from Unity Church used to, when something just perfect alignment would happen and we get introduced to something at exactly the time we needed to hear that or to be gifted with something, she would say, Carol, that's just God showing off. Or I'd be telling her something that worked out perfectly, and she'd say, "What did I tell you, Carol? God is not dumb." And then there were times when we didn't think things had gone right, and I would say, "Well, God and I are going to talk tonight. We're going to have a real come to Jesus meeting because this is not going my way, and I need to know why He's not helping more." And do y'all? That's a Southern phrase, I believe, to have a come to Jesus meeting.
Mm.
What it means to colloquial is we're going to have a talk and you're not going to come out too good in this talk because I'm going to read you the riot act. I had a coaching client. I worked at a software company. I was in learning and development. I had a coaching client I said, well, you seem to be, things seem to have worked out with this manager. I'm so happy for you. Can you tell me what you think made that change? He said, yeah. He said, one day I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with him and everything's been fine since. And I said, John, I'm not from North Carolina. I don't really know what a come to Jesus meeting is. So he explained it to me. He said, yeah, I told him I'm not 7, I'm 34. I have a master's degree in business, and I'm tired of you talking to me like I'm a kid. And he said, he's treated me better ever since. I thought, damn, that could get some people fired. But what a great, so now I have a perfect example of what a really effective come to Jesus meeting at work is like.
Yeah, Carol, and you also mentioned how certain people in your life, it's almost like God brought them to you. It's
Oh,
like
I believe that.
like there's a certain way that you put it. It's like you were sent by God to be in my life because and
Yeah,
so
I
like
believe
I think it's kind of sweet because it's like yeah, it almost gives this a sense of we were meant to meet, and there's
yeah.
something there is some sort of meaning there, and so you're I don't know. There's a kindness to it. It's like I will receive this person into my life, and so you embrace God with open arms, whatever He brings to you, and you kind of
Well, now Joyce, you're kind of giving me a little more credit than I deserve because there are times that I have a little Rumpelstiltskin's fit when I am not happy with what God has sent my way, and God just laughs and laughs because God's got a really big heart, and God loves us the way we love toddlers. You know how toddlers have little fits, and you love them anyway. You don't enjoy the fit, but you love them anyway. Well, my version of that is sometimes I'm reading the right act, and He just sees that as me having a little Rumpelstiltskin fit, and He knows I'll get over it and I'll get past it, and I laugh at myself even before I'm done with the fit. I'm laughing at myself about it. I don't again, I don't think it's like God, a puppet master, doing this and doing that and doing all this stuff actively. I think we get sent with an energetic package. And I think type is a part of that package. And I think we get sent as with the type wiring, typological wiring, the temperament pattern. I think we get sent with what we need. Well, again, this is me believing in the other side and unseen, right? I do believe that we get sent with what we need to do what our soul needs to do in this lifetime. So, and you can do it. It's not like God is a puppet master doing stuff. It's like I got sent with this energy package, and I have free will, right? I have choices. I could have chosen to get mad and not done certain thing and say you're asking too much of me, and instead, introverted intuition woke up and goes, you're supposed to, like when Betsy called me and asked me to help her on Tuesdays. My inner knowing went, you're supposed to be there for Betsy on Tuesdays. All there is to it. So um, once I get the inner knowing, I'm good. And I think we draw to ourselves those people that we need. And sometimes we draw to ourselves people to touch a wound because you can't heal it if you can't feel it. So every now and I get drawn difficult experiences of people to myself. And my goal in that encounter is to maintain my sense of integrity and to not lose it and go fi all over their heads. I've never actually done that, but that's a little fantasy I have. Just just one time, let them have it. Just let my fi tiger out and just destroy them. And I've never done it because I'd feel terrible afterwards. I couldn't live with the guilt. But FI can be a tiger, so I have to keep the tiger in, and the whole time this person's being inappropriate, I'm going, "This is a lesson, Carol. It's just a lesson." And my prayer that figured this out in my 30s. My prayer is, God, show me the lesson. I think I learned this from the Course in Miracles. Show me the lesson. You can count on me to walk the right path. You just send me some light and tell me what steps to take and show me the lesson. And every time I said the prayer, show me the lesson, the difficult situation with that person just almost magically resolved itself. Can I give a little example of this? So when I was studying the Course in Miracles, there was a woman who was being very talking down to me and just being very disrespectful at work. She had been promoted into management and she was just very negative with me. And so I got in my little pity pot of I'm a nice person. I haven't done anything good to her and I'm being victimized here. But the Course in Miracle teaches there are no victims. So I literally went into I don't know why I thought I had to have this talk with God in the mirror, but it seemed fitting. So I went and had a talk with God in the mirror on the other side of this wall, behind this bookcase, actually. And I said, "Look, I know there's something, I know I haven't been victimized here. I don't see how it could possibly be true that she could not be a bad person being mean to me. But I want you to know I'm willing to see it differently. Show me the light. I don't see how it could possibly be true, but I'm willing to see it differently." And I saw it, that was a Sunday night, and I saw it differently Monday afternoon. I ended up in her office in a meeting. And it's like, that I don't know where it is in my some story about and the scales fell off my eyes. And the scales fell off my eyes, and I looked at her. I was seeing her through the eyes of my wounded inner child, right? She was freaking me out because she was touching my childhood wounding. But I'd said the prayer, show me the light, and I realized I saw a very fearful person in front of me. She wasn't strong. She was acting the way she acted out of fear. And I was just flabbergasted, but I walked out of that meeting. I was never afraid of her again, and she never came after me again. Because they only come
Mm,
after you when they touch that core of fear and you're sending off those signals, and that's feeding them because they need to make someone afraid for them to feel strong. I undid 2 bullies in my life at work by seeing through them and realizing they were coming from a place of fear. But that prayer, "I'm willing to be willing," um, 'cause sometimes you're scared too and you're not willing to do it, but willing to be willing, like, has fantastic spiritual power in it. That's because you have free will and you're giving spirit permission to show you something. Even though I literally said, "I don't see how it could possibly be true, but I'm willing to be willing, show me the truth." And 8 what, 16 hours later, I'm there getting the fruits of that willingness to be willing. And you don't even have to believe in a personal God to see why that works. We're energy fields, it's an energetic system. I gave the great energy field, spirit, the universe, whatever noun you at work, I use the word universe because that was okay. I never mentioned the G word at work, but I'd use the word universe. I'd say, "See what I tell you, Linda? The universe is on our side." And that would make people laugh, and that was okay, and that was accepted, that Carol said flaky little things, like, "The universe is on our side." But that willingness to be shown how something is different, and the other phrase I used is, "God, show me the gift. Show me the gift in this. This feels horrible. I don't see how there could possibly be a gift in there, but there is." So, I got shown spiritually Joyce over and over again. With all this shit around here, there's gotta be a pony in here somewhere. And that's, Dave, what helps me get through the bad stuff is because in my little and Joyce tells me ENFPs believe this. In my little ENFP heart of heart, I truly believe with all this shit around here, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So I'm gonna keep going believing there is a pony.
What I'm hearing um, is that one of the things that you bring to this world is giving others a sense of belonging. And so you as a child really wanted to belong, and God, he is great at giving you that sense of belonging, and like and so, and also, so this is also the gift that you bring to other people too. So it's like the thing that you wanted, it's like the thing that you wanted most as a
Yeah.
little kid, and then now you're able to give it to other people. And so I could see why you desire a church where people belong, because it's been like a childhood struggle for you to belong your whole life, and so you never want to neglect someone the privilege of belonging somewhere. And so in
I
a
think
way,
it's called a wound. To Joyce, not to interrupt, but I think it's called a wounded healer syndrome. I think a lot of us, give gifts to the world that come out of the wounding, healing the wounding we had as children. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so that's beautiful. And it really is, either a blessing or a lesson. And asking God, what is the lesson in this? What is the gift in this? Is a great way to dig that out as well too.
Yeah.
So
You see, the crap was my difficult childhood, and the pony is now I get to help other people feel like they belong. So there really was a pony.
yeah. And I think that there's something about you, Carol, is that you have a really big heart. And I think what we can learn from you is that you do have a very personal relationship with God, as in like you experience him. Like sometimes people only experience him through the book, or like through the Bible, or in a non-personal, impersonal way. Whereas for you, it is like you're talking to a best friend. So
It's mystical. It's like it is so clear to me that the other side is real and that this is real. Now, I experienced God and Jesus as a child. I'm not saying they materialize in front of me. Okay. I don't have in the physical world mystical experiences. Okay, I don't have anything that Steven Spielberg wants to come film. Right? It's like there's a screen on the front of my head, and something. a video camera in the back just comes on every now and then and shows me something that will be useful to me. I didn't have an experience of the Virgin Mary until after I went to Peru. You know, the Protestants don't make a big deal about the Virgin Mary, but I've actually had visions. And one time I was wondering of God and Jesus and the Virgin Mary. Hadn't had an experience with the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit's kind of real abstract to me, but I had a Catholic friend who really understood Holy Spirit experiences. I don't. But I had a very vivid Mary vision once, and she didn't say anything, but she was. It's my favorite pose in her statues is exactly how I saw her, which is probably why it's my favorite pose, with her arms down, her her palms out, giving. And my question was, how could you possibly, as a mother, have stood at the foot of that cross and watched your son die so horribly? How 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 did you even survive that and not just go stark raving mad? And the answer I got was not verbal. I felt the peace that passes all understanding. And it just radiated from her. And I felt it. I'm not saying I live in it all the time, okay? I'm not saying that. But I had a visceral experience of the peace that passeth all understanding. So I don't live in that. I don't feel it all the time. But that is as real to me as the two of you are and as SteamYard is. It's just really, it was a very real experience.
I do notice that like people who are able to really settle into their faith, settle into their faith, they do experience a sense of divine peace. Thank you, Carol, for coming out and sharing your ENFP self. It is very sweet, and I find it really precious when you tear up and share something that moves you because it'll move someone who's listening to this all
Well,
too.
can we? This is the type thing. Can we share? This is introverted feeling. People who have FE do not lose it and tear up. People have FI do. I had an ESFP grandfather, and he was a big guy, right? He worked for the railroad. Okay, he shoveled coal and then he drove, and he would be telling something, and he would just tear up and start crying in the middle, and then it would stop, and nobody made fun of him because he was a manly man. And at his funeral, one of the guys, his friends from the railroad, said, Coy Ellis was a very tender-hearted man. And that was just how they explained it. They didn't think he was a sissy. They didn't think he was weird. They got it. He was a real man, but he was a tender-hearted man. So I grew up watching an ESFP grandfather who would tear up like this. So this is introverted feeling. When something touches our core, the tears come. And even Dick Thompson taught me that. When something touches your core, introverted feeling, the tears come. So I used to struggle my whole life to hold them back, but now I'm being me. So I just do the best I can and get through it. And I just assume other people are going to get through it too.
Yeah, it's one of the thousands of things that like you are afraid that make you feel weird in front of other
Yeah,
people who are
right,
also
right.
Christian too. So, but it's lovely, and I think that when you get moved, that's when you pay attention. So I think that being moved is really a sign that you care, you value it, and that it's so important to you that it's beyond words in an introverted feeling kind of way.
There
So
you go.
yeah, thank you, Carol, for showing us the pony and all of the poop. So we're showing us.
Can I thank Dave? Dave, thank you so much. I'm glad I got to meet you. And thank you for being a lovely presence here. I enjoyed your questions, helped take me in useful directions, I think. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's I'm really excited to actually meet you, Carol, because I'm a fan of yours, and thank you so much for coming on our show. Yeah, I was instantly smitten with you when I think I saw you on the first episode Type Talk. So it's great to actually meet you. I'm glad I didn't. I hope I didn't act too weird because I kind of have golden retriever syndrome where I kind of love everyone. So I'm. I hope I didn't weird you out or anything. So
That's a good thing, Dave. Go. That's a very good thing. And I think it's your catalyst core is touched by my catalyst core. Is what
yeah.
that's telling us, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the FI thing and being touched and moved. Yeah, I remember that story telling about your grandpa, and I'll confess, I listened to it at work because I have a job that doesn't require all my brain power. I remember you telling that story, and while you were telling that story, I think when he was talking about your grandmother who had passed, and he would tear up talking about your
Yeah,
grandmother,
that's right.
and I teared up hearing you talk about him, this big burly man, tearing up. So yeah, I know what you mean when things just like hit you and
Yeah,
the emotion just washes over you. You know, it's almost like a natural force, like a tide or something. You can't
yeah.
stop it. You know,
Well,
so
thank you. I love your wording, David. Natural force. You're exactly right. Well said.
yeah.
So, this is a great tearception. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye.